Hello everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Littleland. This edition's going to be special because I've dressed up to do the voices of the characters. Thank you for being really patient with me. I'm sorry that this video is late, but hopefully it's going to be worth it. Settle in, get nice and relaxed. It's time for a story. And this is chapter 11 of Littleland. Vanessa fought the urge to take advantage of Miss Emily's threat in order to avoid socialization. She didn't have to fight long. Within a minute of being let loose on the playground, Piper had grabbed her hand and led her behind the play fort. You didn't respond to my note! Note? Yes, my note. I put it in your crib this morning. Vanessa looked blankly at Piper, not recalling seeing such a note when she awoke. To be fair, Vanessa wasn't at her best in the mornings and likely wouldn't have noticed a bear chewing through the bars. It just said, okay, what about? So, okay, what about? Well, began Vanessa, slowly reddening. I don't know if I can say this out loud. Not a problem, my little friend, she said, reaching into her diaper, to Vanessa's surprise and mild alarm. She produced the crayon and some scrap paper. I figured you wouldn't want to talk about it out loud. Or else you would have just said something instead of sending a note. Piper gave an affable little shrug, and Vanessa liked her for it. Piper nodded and motioned for Vanessa to begin writing. Vanessa turned, and, using the play equipment to brace herself, began to write. She scrawled in a shaky hand, with a rapidly blunting crayon. I have a crush on Miss Mia. So, who doesn't? Vanessa gave Piper an unimpressed frown. Seriously though, there's nothing wrong with that. Remember, I told you I had a bad for Ethan. Yeah, but that's different. How's it different? You wanted to come here? But maybe there was a part of you that wanted to as well. I mean, I don't like the diapers. I just like being looked after, having no responsibilities. Yeah, it's kind of nice not to have to make any decisions. Yeah, that's what's great about it. Takes all the guesswork out of life. What am I going to do today? Have some food? Maybe play a game? Sleep in the middle of the day? Yeah, most likely. And also be spanked and have to pee myself. And poop, said Piper, brightly. Vanessa grimaced, the rocks in her stomach giving a timely lurch. She didn't usually go this long without visiting the bathroom. She knew it would have to come out eventually, but she couldn't face the possibility here, at the park, surrounded by people. Piper gave Vanessa a knowing look. You know, you're gonna have to go sometime. I've got no idea what you're talking about. Seriously, the longer you hold it in, the worse it's going to get. I've been constipated before, said Vanessa, quickly, before she'd had a chance to feel shame at the topic of conversation. Her grimace returned. That's not what I mean, explained Piper, in a tone she no doubt believed to be patient. You've got the doctor this afternoon. Vanessa gave a shudder. Please don't remind me, I'd almost forgotten about it. Well, you should probably think about it. And you should probably think about what's going to happen when he finds out it's been days since you pooped. If he doesn't already know. And that your tummy hurts. Vanessa felt the colour drain out of her face. I don't know why I have to tell you people these things so many times. They know everything. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, said Vanessa, her shaking head dropping into her hands as she slid down the climbing frame to sit on the ground. I'm sorry, said Piper, repeating the motion and sitting next to Vanessa in the bark. What do they do? Piper, you have to tell me. What are they gonna do? Well, I don't know exactly, but I can guess. If I had to bet on it, I'd say they go at it from both ends. I am not doing that! Nothing is going to make me do that! You kind of have to. Unless you want to try to hide. Vanessa raised her head and looked interestedly at Piper, who was once again twirling a braid around her ring finger. And, once again, she had a maddeningly patient expression on her face. "But of course, you know it already, and I don't have to repeat what I just said." Vanessa was not listening. She was scanning the terrain. "Do you remember, Vanessa, what I just said? The thing about them knowing everything?" "I don't care. Nothing else is going up there." Again, she realized too late what her sentence implied, and she groaned, her cheeks growing pink. "All right then. I'm coming too." "No, you're not. Why should you get in trouble too?" "I'm already cooked. My appointment's this morning. I might as well have some fun with it," said Piper as she pointed to a nearby tree. "Okay, so that tree is entirely out of Miss Emily's eye line." "What's out of Miss Emily's eye line?" Aiden James Phillips crinkled into view, grass stains all over his overalls. "Shh," said Vanessa and Piper simultaneously. Piper grabbed Aiden by the shoulder and pulled him into the shade behind the playground. "No way, the two of you can't both come." "It's too late. The boy knows too much." "Well, I wouldn't say that. But really, what's happening?" "We're hiding from our doctor's appointment." "Come on," she said, hightailing out of their hiding space and making a beeline for the tree. After a moment's pause, Vanessa crouched as low as she could and followed her. Aiden followed at a casual pace. "Hurry up! We've got to be fast!" Miss Emily took Danny and Frank to the change room. They fell in a puddle," said Aiden, gesturing behind them to where Miss Emily and two mud-covered boys were disappearing into what appeared to be a toilet block. Vanessa relaxed for a moment. "Yeah, Mickey said he'd watch us." "Aiden! He's here to get Piper!" "Oh." "Quick, get on my shoulders! Get up the tree!" Vanessa had no time to worry about the height of the tree. She refused to go to the doctor, and so she needed to do this. Piper crouched, and Vanessa climbed into place. Piper stood, and Vanessa was able to grab a branch to swing onto. "Keep going higher!" hissed Piper, and Vanessa obliged, making slow progress. She hadn't climbed a tree in almost a decade, and even then she hadn't enjoyed it. As she climbed higher into the branches, she risked a look over her shoulder. Mickey had reached Miss Emily's park bench and had taken a seat. He didn't appear to have noticed them at all. By the time Piper had repeated the process with Aiden, who had a slightly easier time climbing the tree, Vanessa had made it to some 9 feet off the ground. After Aiden was safely in the branches of the tree, Piper kicked off her shoes and expertly shinnied up the trunk. "How did you do that?" asked Aiden, mouth agape, as Piper joined the others in perching on a branch. Vanessa's adrenaline was beginning to wear off, and her distaste for heights had returned. "It's just a tree," said Piper, simply, as if that answered the question. "Now hush, they're probably going to notice soon." Vanessa hugged the trunk of the tree and pinched her eyes shut. They couldn't find her. She wouldn't go, she wouldn't. "I still don't understand why we're hiding. My appointment wasn't so bad." "Shh, whisper. Sorry, my appointment wasn't so bad." "Hers will be. If only Vanessa's appointment is going to be bad. Why are we all up this tree?" "I like to climb trees, and you're a liability." The trio in the tree crouched in silence behind the leaves and watched the others down below. Miss Emily came out of the bathroom and greeted Mickey, who stood with a wave. After a brief conversation, Mickey turned towards the play fort, which sat approximately 50 meters from the base of their vantage point. Vanessa hoped their hiding spot would serve an effective purpose, but a sinking feeling in her stomach told her otherwise. "Piper! Pip! Come here, please!" When his call wasn't answered, Mickey proceeded closer. "Come out, Pip! It's time for your appointment!" They saw Mickey glance at Miss Emily, who began to look about her. The two caregivers did a circle around the play fort, their expressions growing more concerned as they did so. "I can't see her anywhere. I can't see any of them, actually." said Mickey, retreating in the opposite direction. Hope filled Vanessa's heart as they walked away from the tree. "That's it, I'm getting the doctor," came Mickey's voice, and Vanessa's heart sank. Haha, surprise! I got you guys! You thought there was only gonna be one chapter? Well, there's 2 chapters! Ah ha 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 ha! Pranked! All of the numbering is off kilter. So you've just heard chapter 12. I think I said it was chapter 11. I can't remember. I'm sorry. So you just heard chapter 12. This is chapter 13 of Littleland. Piper, Aiden, and Vanessa, come out. And quickly, please, called the doctor, who now stood in the middle of the field. His dark outfit was a stark contrast to the greenery around him. Worry creased Miss Emily's face, and they could see Mickey reach aside and pat her on the back. Dr. Gilbert's face remained a stern mask, neutral and impassive. He called again. "Little runaways, come out now. Do not make me fetch you." A moment's wait, listening to the air, and the doctor began to stroll towards the playground, collected yet imposing as ever. Vanessa gave a shiver. It seemed borderline impossible to ignore the calm authority in Dr. Gilbert's low voice. Vanessa had to hug the tree trunk with even greater force to prevent herself from obeying. Dr. Gilbert had bypassed the playground entirely and was walking with what seemed like purpose towards the stand of trees in which they hid. Vanessa's heart leapt into her throat. From beside them came a crinkle and a muted crunching sound. Startled, both Vanessa and Piper turned their heads to find that the noise's source was Aiden James Phillips, unwrapping a biscuit. Aghast, and acting without consideration, Piper reached out and slapped the biscuit from Aiden's hand. He looked at her, appalled. "Hey!" he cried, dropping all pretense of stealth in the wake of biscuit loss. "Why would you think right now is a good time to eat a fucking biscuit?" The sound of a throat clearing came from below them. Indeed. All 3 froze. Nobody spoke. "Give up the pretense now," said Dr. Gilbert, staring directly up at them with his hands on his hips. "I know you're up there. It would be best if you came down." Vanessa shook her head, her fists balled tightly. This was bad. The 3 looked amongst themselves. Vanessa shook her head once more. Piper shrugged, then called down to the caregivers with a comical smile on her face. "Why?" "I don't need to explain myself, Piper. I asked you to come down. That's all you need to know." "But I don't want to. It's so nice up here." "I am going to count to 3, began the doctor, to Vanessa's horror. She couldn't believe that she'd gotten herself into this situation. "I think I've made a mistake," she whispered. Piper looked at her in concern. 1. "Do you want to get down? I don't like being counted at either. My tummy hurts. I need to get down." 2. "Wait, Dr. Gilbert, wait!" "Yes, Piper." "Vanessa's tummy hurts." Dr. Gilbert shared a look with the others, sudden realization dawning. "And might this be because someone hasn't gone potty in quite a while?" Piper looked at Vanessa, who squirmed miserably. "Maybe." "And might this tree climbing be related to that?" "I can neither confirm nor deny," replied Piper, diplomatically. "I see. And might that someone with a sore belly like to come down from there and get some medicine for said sore belly?" "You have to promise something first." Aiden's eyes widened at her audacity and stole a look down at Miss Emily. She looked up at them with a mixture of relief and disappointment, Aiden felt a nauseous, spinning feeling blooming in his gut. "I shall do no such thing."
"You have to promise that you won't spank us."
I shall definitely do no such thing. You'll be lucky if you're not put over a knee the second your feet touch the ground. You're in big trouble, little girl.
"Can't spank us all at once."
Dr. Gilbert looked over each of his shoulders in turn at Mickey, and then Miss Emily.
"Nice try. Mickey doesn't spank anybody."
Piper relaxed against the trunk in victory. Didn't. Piper, try him right now. Piper gaped, as if several emotions were emerging at once, and she wasn't yet sure how to feel. Vanessa and Aiden, less affected by the news that Mickey intended to spank Piper, looked on nervously. "So, you have two options, as I see it. You can do as I say, be good little ones, climb down from there, and face the consequences." Dr. Gilbert paused, affixing his stern attention on each individual runaway. "Or you can wait for me to get a ladder and retrieve you myself." The trio shifted discomfortedly. Nobody moved. "And I can promise you that the consequences will be far more severe should I have to go up there and retrieve you." Piper, last on the branch, slunk down first, followed by Aiden. Vanessa lurched across the branch, the inertia of the situation having only just caught up to her. This was way too high, way too dangerous. Even worse, she had broken Miss Mia's big rule. So if you ever get it in your mind to do something that dangerous ever again, this is where you'll end up. Miss Mia's words echoed in her head as she attempted to navigate the notion of climbing down from her hiding place. The gaps between branches seemed so much bigger now than they had been when she was climbing up. She was going to be in so much trouble. Miss Mia would be so disappointed in her. Her stomach cramped painfully, and her eyes welled with tears. Vanessa was terrified that the doctor would take her snail's pace as insolent. But she bit back the urge to cry out an apology, and instead concentrated on the descent. And in a moment of sick surprise, Vanessa's foot slipped. Her balance was tipped, and she was plummeting. As she fell, her stomach gave an almighty cramp. She let out a cry of true terror, and the mass she'd been holding back emptied into her diaper. Vanessa didn't have the time to register that fact before coming to a safe rest in Dr. Gilbert's arms. Vanessa trembled there, overcome with fear. All in all, Vanessa had only fallen less than 2 meters, but it lasted an eternity to the little girl. She looked around her, upward to the branch that tripped her, and finally at the man who caught her. He looked down upon her with a deeply furrowed brow, which lifted in relief as he did, and saw her unharmed. The reality of the situation caught up to her. She'd climbed a tree to escape a doctor's appointment. She'd fallen from said tree, and she'd made a mess of her diaper. Her heart beat fast, adrenaline coursing through her body. She took a deep breath in and began to cry. Hard. Vanessa burrowed deeper into the large man's embrace, and he held the little girl close as she sobbed. The little ones were led back inside. They were brought to the nursery and placed within the playpen. Dr. Gilbert took Vanessa, too upset to notice, into the changing room and rocked her there for several minutes. She had begun to breathe more steadily. One large palm rubbed circles on her back, the other supported her bottom. The doctor laid her down upon the changing table. Vanessa's eyes remained closed. She could feel herself surrendering, slipping into that soft, pliable, vulnerable headspace as he removed her soiled and sodden nappy.
"That's it. Good girl. Nice big deep breaths for me. That's it. Good girl."
His little affirmations rained down upon Vanessa and kindled a warm fire in her heart. Eventually, by the time Dr. Gilbert had wiped away the last traces of her accident, Vanessa's tears dried up and her breathing was even. Her eyes opened cautiously as the doctor affixed the last tape of a clean, fluffy diaper. She gazed sleepily around her, feeling the smallest she'd felt since her arrival at this place.
There we go. Are we feeling better?
Murmured Dr. Gilbert, lifting her from the pad and cradling her in his arms. Vanessa did feel better. The cramping, scraping feeling inside her belly had disappeared and was replaced with a gentle fluttering. It was a happy feeling, a comfortable feeling. She had survived her first messy diaper. Where she expected to feel shame, she felt pride. She'd done it. The doctor returned her to the nursery, and Vanessa took a deep breath. It was time to face the consequences. Vanessa stood trembling between Piper and Aiden as they faced Dr. Gilbert, who stood before them with his considerable arms crossed over his considerable chest.
I would like to hear what happened.
Well, I was a liability, so I had to go up the tree. Dr. Gilbert looked quizzically at the little boy, who glanced around him, not appearing to notice the peculiarity of his last sentence. Mickey stifled a grin.
From the beginning, if you please.
I didn't want to go to my appointment, so I suggested we hide. Vanessa tried to interject, but was cut off. I knew I was going to be in trouble, so I convinced Vanessa to climb a tree with me. Aiden James Phillips really was a liability. We had to take him with us or he'd blab. Not on purpose, interjected Aiden, defensively. Vanessa squirmed, disliking the fibs immensely. She couldn't let Piper take the blame for this. She wouldn't. Dr. Gilbert appeared to notice her inner turmoil.
Vanessa, is there something you would like to say?
It wasn't Piper's fault. Vanessa forced herself to look directly into the doctor's eyes. It wasn't Aiden's either. Piper elbowed Vanessa in the ribs and shot her a rapid glance. It said,
Let me do this.
In any other situation, Vanessa's anxiety would have entirely prevented her from speaking in front of such a somber, hulking man. In this instance, Vanessa's anxiety was outmatched by her conscience. Piper had helped her today. Piper was her friend. Vanessa couldn't bear to see her friend take the blame.
Would you like to tell me your version of events?
I needed to talk to Piper, so we went behind the playground, and my tummy started hurting, said Vanessa, not wishing to admit why.
Ah, and why did it hurt?
Vanessa took a shaky breath in and locked her eyes onto her shoes. She remained silent.
Well, thank you to answer my question, little miss.
Because I didn't go to the toilet, said Vanessa in a very small voice. Her eyes remained on the floor.
Look at me.
Vanessa's lower lip trembled. It took every ounce of strength she possessed, but Vanessa managed to raise her green eyes to meet his grey ones. Because I didn't go to the toilet.
Ah, yes. It's not good to hold it in, little one.
No, said Vanessa, miserably, and bravely continued. Then Papa said you'd have to help me if I didn't go. I didn't want you to put anything up my bottom, so I decided to hide. A single tear snuck out of Vanessa's left eye and left a glassy trail down her face. Piper told me not to. She tried to get me to be good, but I went to hide instead.
Vanessa looked at her friend with eyes full of remorse and gratitude.
She shouldn't be in trouble.
I went with you. I didn't have to go, but I wanted to. And I made Aiden come too. It's my fault he's here.
I was just happy to be included.
Dr. Gilbert held up a hand. I'm afraid that's not for you to decide, little girls. It's up to us. He gestured to the other two caregivers who sat off to the left, and I'd say we'd all agree you're in need of some discipline. Vanessa sighed inwardly. She knew what was coming, but still, her stomach coiled into tight knots of humiliation at the notion. Wouldn't you? He asked, regarding them with eyes that were uncompromising yet kind. The three of them each mumbled out their yeses in turn. I thought so. What the three of you did today was extremely dangerous and very naughty. I never want to have a repeat of what happened today, ever again. Am I making myself perfectly clear, little ones?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, replied all three in tremulous voices. And if I need to have this conversation about climbing trees ever again, I promise you that you will not sit for 3 days. Vanessa blanched. Piper set her jaw. Aiden stole a glance at Miss Emily, who smiled sympathetically at him. Dr. Gilbert let his words sink in for a few moments before he spoke again. Piper, you will come with Michael and I. You are late for your appointment. Piper nodded soberly, her usual exuberance considerably diminished. Vanessa, Aiden, you will stay here with Miss Emily and have some quiet time. Then, to her discomfort, he addressed Vanessa singularly. And I will be back to collect you in an hour, little girl. You're to behave yourself till then. Am I understood?
Yes, sir.
Oh, be good. La 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 la. I'm scary. I'm a scary guy, dumb doctor man. I'm just kidding, everybody. It's just me. I wish I had a deeper voice. I feel like I can't do Dr. Gilbert justice because my voice isn't deep enough. Ah, poots. I hope you all enjoyed this. It feels weird to be speaking in my regular voice whilst Gilberted up. While that was something that was really fun to do, coordinating the costume changes mean that it's unlikely I'll be doing full costume editions going forward. I'll probably do a couple, like every now and again, just to keep you guys on your toes, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this costumed edition. I'll see you guys next week for your regularly scheduled programming.